I guess this seems to be a war that will never be won, but will always be fought. And that is boys versus girls. Welcome to the Film Threat Podcast. I am Chris Gore, and I hope you're in the mood to discover a new independent film that is out and available on all those video-on-demand platforms that you love, that I certainly take advantage of, because indie films are thriving. While the big Hollywood movies are being pushed later and later in the schedule, indie films are coming out every week, and it's my duty to tell you about them. Boys versus Girls is an 80s inspired camp comedy, and I'm excited to talk to the director, Mike Stasko, and actors from the film, some comedy legends, Kevin McDonald, Colin Mochrie. Welcome to the Film Threat Podcast, guys. How you doing today?
We're doing fine. I speak for all of us.
Well, I don't think I need to ask what inspired this comedy, but it's good to see something like, I don't think I've seen a comedy quite like this at camp since Meatballs with Bill Murray, but I can see where it kind of came. I mean, it's not just a camp film, but also a film set at a camp, but it's also inspired, it's a period piece, right? And I love, one of my favorite scenes is they're talking about Star Wars, but it's if none of the new Star Wars movies have come out. So really particularly love that scene. But Mike, maybe you can tell me how this whole project came together.
Yeah, thanks. So this film was kind of loosely based on real events where my summer camp did go co-ed for the first time between the summers of 89 and 90. And obviously I dramatized things a little bit for the film. And in real life, the boys and girls didn't get along for about 2 days, and then the hormones kicked in and everyone just got along just great. But for the purpose of the films, I had to introduce conflict for the second act. So I pretended as if they didn't like each other for a while, added in a few make-believe scenes, and we got some hilarity out of it, hopefully.
So so you're actually saying that in real life, it actually went smoothly, whereas in the film, you upped the ante on the conflict.
Yeah, I mean, in real life, they both kind of were taking stake in the ground into this camp is a boys' camp, this camp is a girls' camp. And then after, I think, the second night where they realized they got to, hang out at nighttime and make out with each other, they were like, you know what, this is all right. But for the film, I kind of grabbed things that happened throughout maybe 2 decades of camping, little incidents, and kind of disguised them as moments of conflict in that second act. But yeah, everything went fine pretty much in real life.
And you've got a cast of mostly, at least from what I saw, and I could be wrong, mostly unknown or new and up-and-coming young actors.
Thank you.
But okay, but you have some comedy veterans with Colin and Kevin. Can you tell me about bringing them onto the project? And I want to talk to them about working on it.
Yeah, I got real lucky. Colin and Kevin were the first two that I cast in it. And it was, I had a little bit of a track record. I had done a few features before that, but still a young enough filmmaker where it's no guarantee you're going to get anyone to be excited about your film. So with Colin, it's, he's comedy gold, not only in Canada, but across the world. And his ability through what we've seen in Whose Line is in any way where you can have 12-year-old girls will laugh at a joke that a 75-year-old man will laugh at. So I think of him as he's the real Shawshank Redemption of people, where he's just appealable to many people with less prison time, though. And Kevin, if you're my age or a little older, a little younger, you grew up in Canada. I mean, he's an icon. I can count on one hand how many films I've seen more than once in the theaters. And with Brain Candy, I saw that 5 times in theater. So for me, I asked Colin and Kevin. They were my first choice for both these roles, and I was, secretly expecting no Get Lost kid or whatever. But for my confidence was just, well, I can ask them and they say no, and it's just me who cries about it. I don't have to tell other people. But luckily, they both said yes, and I was happy to work with them. It was a thrill.
Well, a question for both Colin and Kevin, what it was like to work on this thing. Did you ever go to camp?
Can I just say first, I've known Colin Mochrie for like 35 years, and I never realized till now that Mochrie is a perfect comedy name. Mochrie. How can I just say that?
Same with McDonald.
So's McDonald. we both have perfect comedy.
It is. We should go on the road.
Yes. I'll do my quick camp story. I was a Cub Scout, and when I was 12, I went on a trip, and that's how I found out I was allergic to 11 things. We put our tent on all 11 things I'm allergic to. Hay, dust, a dead cat, I believe was there. And I had to be rushed home. It was like cut to woo, and I had to be rushed home to the hospital. And that's how I found out I had asthma and allergies. And I got no badges, 0 badges. Colin, your story. I'll sit in shame.
I was at one camp. Everyone was killed. I survived because I was a virgin. So that was it. I'd never been to camp. Never. So I had absolutely. My camp experience was watching Meatballs. My best friend was actually in Meatballs. He plays the guy who races Chris Makepeace at the end and loses. But yeah, no camp. I'm not really a woodsy person. I'm not what you call urban either, but I have no survival skills.
The grand piano over your shoulder really sells that.
Yeah, it really does. Oh, yeah. I actually carved that myself, but I have no. I did feel maybe a little envious of kids who did go to camp. It seemed like a lovely thing every summer they'd head off. But then I went camping with some friends and I thought, nope, nope, not at all.
Yeah, I'm not a camping person either. I mean, for me, like roughing it is staying at a Courtyard Marriott. Like that's where that's sort of like, yeah, I know, exactly, a Courtyard Marriott.
Let's roughing it. Oh, I went camping one other time in grade 7. I went with 3 math geniuses, George, Inghan, and Lorenzo. They were math geniuses. I don't know why they liked me. They were, and again, I had to be rushed home because and raccoons ate all our food the first night. So I think I sort of looked for stuff I could be allergic to, so I could be rushed home. I don't like camping.
Yes, I can. You know what? I think we can all understand why.
I allergies, raccoons. Math geniuses.
No, the top 3 scary
They're
things.
the worst. Yeah, the top 3. Raccoons, math geniuses.
Mike, when you were working with Colin and Kevin, did you even need to give them dialogue? Just throw them in the situation? I mean, you're both, I mean, just comedy legends. I feel like, here's a script. It's a suggestion, or was there a lot of improv? Like how did you work with them, and what stuff didn't make the cut?
There's a lot of fun stuff that didn't make the cut. We do have a minute in the blooper reels though, but I did the producing thing where I had the crew, cast and crew. We filmed for a whole week before we had Colin and Kevin show up, just so that we could kind of ramp up the gears and get into our professional mode. So we were used at that point to doing 6 or 7 takes per shot kind of thing. But then the week we had Colin and Kevin, it was like 2 takes was a lot because they would nail it. They would nail it the first time. And then I'd be like, that's kind of what I wanted. And then I'd go, okay, let's do another take for safety and you can improv this one. And then they'd come up with something hilarious. And I remember even Kevin a few times, he's like, do you normally just do 1 or 2 takes? I'm like, well, with you guys, yeah, it's flowing really well. So
we added nothing.
Yeah. There were, I mean, the very first assembly edit that I did was maybe a half hour longer, and it was just letting their takes run longer and longer and doing like 5 different versions of them going on and on. But ultimately you cut that a lot down so that there's a bit of a story and people can follow along. But behind the scenes things for the DVD afterwards.
What were some of the takes that didn't get used, and also were there blown takes from the other actors that were obviously trying to hold it in while they were working?
As I recall, in my scenes, they had no problem whatsoever holding it in. They were straight ahead and almost quizzical that I was a part of the the whole process.
They seem to be very good at that with me as well. They laughed at each other during their take.
Yeah, what was that about?
No, they never laughed at Colin and I once.
Yeah.
They're professionals.
It was pretty nice. On the first day we had Kevin, I remember one of his very first scenes, he had to pick group names out of a hat. And he was like a professional. He would do the first take correctly. But then we rolled on a few, and he was just pulling stuff out of thin air and calling things off. And most of it was unusable, not because of him, but you could hear the crew laughing in the background. And then same thing with Colin. There was one take where Colin would usually add his own little button to the end of the scene, and usually that was insulting someone. He had some pretty nice things out of left field. But again, I think we have at the end of if you watch it during the credits, it dips to black and then comes out, and there's a good minute and a half of gag reels there.
Oh, like Burt Reynolds.
Yes.
Dom DeLuise.
And Dom DeLuise.
Which one do you want to be?
I'm Dom. You're Burt. You've got to be Burt.
God bless you.
Was there sort of a, like, on the set kind of a, because in a way, like, with whatever limited experience I've had working on films, it feels a lot like camp, because you come together, you're all directed towards this goal, you're working, and then you got to say goodbye to everybody. So in a way, like, filmmaking itself is kind of like camp. Was there that kind of atmosphere?
There was a little bit of that, and I was a bit scared of that as an independent producer, because we actually rented out an entire summer camp for the 3.5 weeks that we were shooting. Much of the main actors who played the camp counselor level age, they were there for the whole 3 weeks because they were in a lot of the film, where I had Colin and Kevin just came in for 3 days each. So we tried to mask it as much as we could from Colin and Kevin, that there was a nice professional set with all this wonderful stuff going on. Awful. I had them in a really bad trailer as well, but we ate in.
Right. Oh, yeah. There's a lot of mud around it. Remember stepping over mud, Colin?
Yeah.
There's always a lot of dry, not a raindrop, but mud for some reason.
But so as an indie producer, I mean, we were using the actual camp dining hall as where we would eat, kind of thing, and different cabins were like the hair and makeup and wardrobe departments and stuff. So I tried to sell that to the actors as like, isn't this fun? I'm doing this so we can all get into each other's heads. But really, it's also an economic reason why it was shot that way.
Did the young actors actually live at night at the little cabins they had? Like
the camp counselor ones, those the 20-year-old kids.
Yeah,
they all stayed in the senior staff cabins, which is just like a motel basically. And they stayed in there, but they're young and naive enough where they bought into it. They were like, "This is amazing! I'm really getting into character here." This washroom's so dirty. It's just like camp. And I'm like, yeah, that's what I was. But now they're watching this. I'm found out.
Oh, well, Kevin and I would go back to the Four Seasons landscaping store.
Yeah,
a nice little meal there.
Yes, with our water beds and our 9 TVs.
Yes.
Well, I'm curious if, I'm lucky enough to be able to interview a lot of filmmakers, and fortunate sometimes to have the cast from films. This must be the first time you guys have seen each other in a while. Do you have any questions for each other? I'm just curious.
Colin, the Chris Jericho thing. I remember you were filming one thing. I was on another episode. Was that before or after this? You don't have to remember. I don't.
Which episode was this?
Was it the Chris Jericho show?
Oh, yes. We
were in different episodes, but it was a mansion, and I asked, and I was serious, because I didn't know you were filming. I just thought you would let us use your house, and I said, "Is this your house?" And you got mad at me. You said, "I can't afford this," because it was like a super mansion.
Yeah, I wasn't at a mansion. I was on the phone. That was it. I was in somebody's kitchen just acting on the phone.
Right. So you
How about you? Did that rash clear up?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it did.
It's hard. When you learn just 11 things, it's hard to keep all your body parts away from those things all the time.
I forget if that's the last time I saw Colin, or if this was the last time I saw Colin. I forget. But I'm doing fine. How are you guys doing?
Yeah, good. And the last time I saw Mike was in Windsor.
Yeah.
Show. You came to see a show.
Yeah, I did. I actually saw Colin did his Himprov show, which is a hypnotism and improv combined.
All right.
And It was literally the funniest live show I've ever seen, and it was the same thing again. Where looking around me, there was kids, old people, and everything in between, and everyone was in hysterics the whole time. It was wonderful.
Colin, do you ever get accidentally hypnotized?
No, because I have a strong mind, Kevin. I know how to avoid being hypnotized in the show where I'm working with a hypnotist.
I'd be hypnotized. Kill the mayor. Kill the mayor. I'd be hypnotized all the time.
Colin, you were saying before we started recording and doing this interview about boys versus girls, you were telling us about you're going to teach improv over Zoom. How is this possible?
I don't know. I really don't. This was through this young gentleman made a documentary about trying to use improv to ease conflict in the world. And there's this big symposium somewhere with people from all around the world, psychologists who use improv in their work.
Wow.
And I'm going to be trying to bring world peace through the power of yes and. So keep an eye on that. See how it goes.
It might work.
And you know what? What's the worst that could happen? I mean, haven't we faced the worst that could happen?
Well, a lot bad can happen too, but it might go well. Yes, and.
Gentlemen, I just want to thank you for being on the Film Threat podcast. I want to thank our sponsor, Storyblocks. Go to storyblocks.com/filmthreat. And Boys versus Girls is out now and available on all your video on demand platforms. It was truly an honor and a pleasure to speak with you all. Congrats on the movie. Any final words for our Film Threat audience listening or watching this at home?
It's a good movie. I'm not embarrassed about this one.
It is a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun.
Yes.
The kids were great. And for me, getting a chance to work with Kevin, I grew up watching him. So it was really nice for us to finally get a chance to work.
6-year-old Colin in the back of our shows, at the back of the stage. Teach me your tricks. I don't have to teach you, little 6-year-old Colin. You'll have your own. It's obvious you're a genius growing up.
It's exactly what happened.
Thanks a lot. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My dog's barking. Scares me.